Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, my dear friends. It's me, Ahmad Rashid Ahmad again with a new English lecture, starting with the name of most merciful and most compassionate. Before starting our today's lecture, I want you all to like and subscribe my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important perfect tense in English grammar, which is called present perfect tense. Okay, let's define present perfect tense simply. Present perfect tense talk about actions that happen in the recent past, and the effect of the recent past is still felt in the present. It means we can say that we use present perfect tense has the link between past and present. It means we can we can use present perfect tense to talk about those actions that they happened recently, and we can feel the effect of that recent action in the present. Okay, where can we use present perfect tense? Let's talk about the usage. But before talking about the usage, let's have an example. I've studied English, and this sentence, I've studied English, we can see that this action has happened recently, so far we can feel the effect of this action in the present. I've studied English, it means the consequences in here that now on I have the ability of teaching English. We use from to a verb as the primary auxiliary verb in perfect tenses. We use have for I, we, you, they, or for first and second person, and we use has for third singulars or for he, she, and it. Let's talk about the use of present perfect tense. The first place that we can use present perfect tense is with since and for to talk about unfinished actions. It means those actions that they are unfinished, they are not finished yet. We can use since and for to talk about those actions. For example, I can say that I have taught English since 2009. It means that I started studying teaching English since 2009, and still the action is ongoing, and still I'm teaching English. Okay, where can we use since and where can we use for? We use since when we want to talk about the starting of the point, and we use for when we are talking about a period of time in the past. Okay, let's talk about the second usage of present perfect tense. The second place that we can use present perfect tense is with a present meaning. For example, I have forgotten the meaning of this word. This is a present perfect sentence, but it completely give a meaning of present. Okay, let's talk about the third usage of present perfect tense. The third usage of present perfect tense is that we use present perfect tense to talk about life experiences. For example, by using ever and never, we can talk about life experiences. Have you ever been to Canada? It means we're asking someone about your life experience. Let's talk about the fourth place that we can use present perfect tense to talk about recent events, or also we can use present perfect tense to talk about newses. But we need to use from these words. For example, yet, already, just, and also recently. For example, I can say that I have just studied English, or I have just finished my homework. It means this action happened recently. Also, we can use yet, just, already, and recently to talk about newses as well. But where can we use yet and already properly? We use already when something happened or when an action happened earlier than we expect, and we use yet to talk about the action which happened earlier. It is we can use yet to talk in a sentence with a negative and interrogative meaning, and we use already to an affirmative sentence or an assertive sentences. Okay, let's talk about the fifth place of using present perfect tense. We also can use present perfect tense to talk about repeated action with a specific period of time. For example, we can say that by using some time expression, we can use present perfect tense to talk about repeated action with a specific period of time. For example, I can say I have traveled to London several times. It means I'm talking about the action which happens several times, which is repeated action. Okay, let's talk about the structure of present perfect tense. And up to now, we studied that what is the definition of present perfect tense. Where can we use present perfect tense or the usage of present perfect tense? And now on, let's talk about the structure of present perfect tense. If you want to make a sentence in present perfect tense, you need to memorize or you need to know that what is the structure of present perfect tense, because the structure can help you to build or to construct a sentence in present perfect tense. The formative structure is subject plus have has plus verb 3 or past participle form of the verb plus complement. For example, I have studied English, and if you want to change this affirmative sentence to interrogative structure, on the time you only need to replace the to verb with the subject. I studied English, and if you want to change your sentence from affirmative form to negative form, you need to use a not after your primary auxiliary verb, which is to have verb. I have not studied English. If you want to contract have not done and also has not, you can contract them simply like haven't and also hasn't. And also you also can change present perfect tense sentences to negative interrogative form. Also we can use two kind of structure to change an affirmative sentence to negative interrogative structure. The first one is with a contraction, the second one is with a contraction. If we change a sentence to negative interrogative without contraction, on the time we need to structure our sentence like this. That's to have verb or have us plus subject plus not plus verb 3 plus complement. For example, have I not studied English? If you want to use contraction and negative interrogative sentences, on the time you need to use not before your subject. Haven't I studied English? Also, we can use WH question to receive more information in present perfect tense. For example, what have I studied? Do not forget one thing, that we cannot use when in present perfect tense. Why? Because we use when to receive or to get information about a particular time. Okay, now on, let's talk about what are the rules of using D and ED, and how can we change the base form of the verb to past participle form of the verb. Okay, my dear all friends, now it is time to talk about changing the verb from base form to third form. What are the rules of changing the verb from first form to third form? Before talking about changing the verb from first form to third form or using D and ED at the end of your verbs, I want to talk about the form of the verbs. Verbs are also broken into two categories, which are called regular verbs and also irregular verbs. Regular verbs are those verbs that they accept D and ED, but irregular verbs are those verbs that they do not accept D and ED. First, we're going to talk about regular verbs that they accept D and ED. The first rule of using D for those verbs that they are ending with E, we only need to add a D at the end of them. For example, complete, completed. The second rule of using D and ED is if a verb ends with consonant plus Y or Y which preceded by a consonant, you need to change Y to I, and after that you need to add an ED at the end of your verb. For example, study, studied. The next one is the third rule is if your verb end with vowel plus Y, or if your verb end with Y and Y is preceded by A, E, I, O, U, on that time you only need to add an ED at the end of your verb. For example, play, played. And the fourth rule says for one syllable verbs that they are ending with consonant with vowel plus consonant, or the consonant is preceded by a vowel letter, on that time you need to double the consonant at the end and add an ED at the end of your verbs. For example, we can say that there is note and also noted. But one thing that I want to mention, we cannot double those verbs that they are ending with WX and also Y. We cannot double these kinds of verbs that they are ending with these letters. For example, fixed, we only need to add an ED, fixed. Okay, let's talk about two-syllable verbs. Two-syllable verbs that they are ending with consonant, that the consonant is preceded by a vowel letter. If the second syllable is stressed, on the time you can double the consonant at the end and you can add an ED at the end of your verb. For example, commit, committed, and prefer, prefer. We need to double the consonant at the end and we need to add an ED. Okay, but something which is really remarkable for those two-syllable verbs, that the first syllable is stressed, the second syllable is not stressed, on that time you only need to add an ED. For example, listen, listened. Okay, let's talk about using or pronouncing of the ED at the end of your verbs. There are three ways to pronounce ED at the end of your verbs. The first rule is when the verb end with T and D and we're adding an ED at the end of them, on the time we should pronounce the ED as ID. And also you need to use from your vocal cord to produce a vibration or humming sound and the throat. On the time you can pronounce T, ED and DED as ID. For example, wanted and needed. Also, we can pronounce D or ED at the end of our verbs as T. For example, danced, fixed. Also, we can pronounce ed at the end of our verbs like d. For example, used and enjoyed. Okay, we talked about regular verbs and using d and ed. Let's talk about irregular verbs. What are irregular verbs? Irregular verbs are those verbs that they do not accept d and ed. They completely change their forms when we are using them in past and also in past participle forms. For example, fly, flew, flown, go, went, gone. Okay, something that I want to mention, that as a secret of past form and also past participle form, all the regular verbs or the rules are the same for second and the third forms. It means, what does it mean? It means that when we want to change a base form of the verb to second form and the third form, we use the same rules for the second form and the third form only for regular verbs, not for irregular verbs. Okay, boys and girls, it was our today's lecture about present perfect tense. We defined present perfect tense. We talked about usage of present perfect tense. We talked about structure of present perfect tense. We also just talked a little bit about regular and also irregular verbs, and also we studied that how can we use d and ed at the end of our regular verbs if they are one syllable and also two syllables. I hope you enjoyed and learned some new things from our today's lecture. In case of any complaints, any suggestion, any question, you can text me and also you can comment me. Do not forget to like and subscribe my YouTube channel. Wish you all the best. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.